Hi, this is David at Mush IT. Now we've had this M17 R5 in the studio for about 2 weeks now, and we've really put it through the ringer. So in tonight's review, I want to talk about all the good points and bad points to work out whether this laptop is worth the incredibly high price point Dell have put on this new Ryzen-based 7-inch gaming laptop. Now we have already uploaded a detailed unboxing and first impressions video, so I will put a link down below in case you missed it. So the model we're reviewing is the Ryzen 9 6900HX CPU coupled with an Nvidia RTX 3070 Ti. We've got 16GB of DDR5 RAM, a 1TB Gen 4 SSD, and a 1080p 165Hz base panel. Now I want to get the biggest gripe out of the way first, the screens. This laptop comes with two screen options, 1080p or 1080p. So you can have the base 165Hz 1080p panel like I've got here, or you can upgrade it to the 360Hz 1080p panel. Now come on Dell, this is 2022. You've not even given us an option for the 4K screen like we've got on the X17, and where on earth are the QHD panels that would be the absolute sweet spot for this laptop? Now don't get me wrong, if you're just gaming on these machines, 1080p is fine, but when you start working or using a laptop for media consumption, you really can start to see the pixels on these 1080p screens. QHD is the absolute sweet spot because it looks so incredibly crisp with everything you're doing on a 7-inch panel. Now the two 1080p panels Dell have offered are both great screens. They're both about 350 nits of brightness, they're both vibrant, they're very responsive, and they're absolutely incredible for gaming on because any of the RTX cards will absolutely rip through the 1080p resolution. Now the base 165Hz panel is in this machine. If you upgrade to the 360Hz, you also get Windows Hello. It's slightly more color accurate and it is ever so slightly more responsive. But for most people, I think you'd be more than happy with this lovely 165Hz panel. Now the chassis is well put together, it feels durable. There's a little bit of creak around the actual hinges, just like the M15 series. It only comes in one colour, and that's the dark side of the moon like we've got here. But the advantage of this colour is it really makes the RGB pop. We've got the RGB keyboard, we've got the lit alien head power button, we've also got the alien head on the rear of the screen, and we've got the Tron ring, just like we've got on the M15. And in all honesty, you'd be forgiven for thinking this is just a larger M15 because they're almost exactly the same, other than the embossed logo on the actual lid, with this obviously saying 17 instead of a 15. Now the laptop weighs 3.3 kilograms, so it is quite hefty, but that's absolutely fine for a 7-inch gaming laptop in my opinion. And this probably isn't the sort of machine you're going to be looking for if you're planning to use this in coffee shops or wandering around college or a campus all day. This is more of a laptop that you're going to be putting in a laptop bag and taking from location to location to set up and game. Now the port selection is good. On the left side, we've got RJ45 and a headset jack. On the right side, we've got two USB-A ports. Now on the rear, we've got the power jack, an HDMI 2.1, another USB-A, and a USB Type-C. And that is another gripe that I have with this actual laptop. The USB Type-C is actually always going through the integrated graphics. So even if you go into BIOS and change it to the dedicated Nvidia card, like on a Muck Twitch, when you boot back into Windows, you can still see the integrated graphics. And then whenever you plug anything into that USB Type-C with DisplayPort throughput, you're still going through the integrated. So that basically means if you want a direct connection to this RTX card, you're going to have to use the HDMI. And that's going to be a bit of a shame, especially for people that want G-Sync panels. A lot of people will buy a desktop replacement 7-inch gaming laptop like this to pop on their desk and plug their keyboard, their mouse and their screen in. And the best way to do that is to have a DisplayPort or a Thunderbolt 3 DisplayPort that goes directly to your Nvidia card. Gives you the optimal performance. With this one, it's not going to happen. And that's a massive oversight by Dell in my opinion. Now the hinge, that's nice and sturdy. It's not easy to open with one hand because it is quite stiff. But the advantage of that is you're getting a laptop with very little screen wobble. It's great for using on your lap, or if you're typing hard on your keyboard, the screen's not going to be rocking around. The palm rest is the usual soft touch finish. It feels very luxurious when you leave your hands on there, but unfortunately it does pick up the odd fingerprint of hand oils, so you will need to clean it regularly. The touchpad is quite roomy, but it's plastic and it doesn't feel as premium as a lot of the other glass trackpads out there, but it works well and gestures work well. And to be honest, being a gaming laptop, you're more than likely to be using a mouse for most of the time anyway. And then moving up, we've got the beautiful RGB perky Alienware keyboard. Now, unfortunately, there's no number pad, and I know a lot of people will like that, But other than that, this is an absolutely fantastic keyboard with great travel and pressure, making it one of my favourite keyboards to type on. Now, unfortunately, the actual cursors are pushed into the actual keyboard, but a lot of manufacturers do this. And the actual backlighting on this keyboard only lights the primary characters. The secondary functions are not lit, and that's a bit of a shame. And despite being a 7-inch laptop with plenty of room on this palm rest, we're treated to the usual subpar gaming laptop downward firing speakers. They sound like this. Speaker test of the M17 R5 at 80% volume. So there we go. It does get very loud, but they're not the best speakers with regards to quality. And talking of subpar, if we move up to the webcam and microphones, they look and sound like this. And this is what the webcam and the microphones look and sound like on the Alienware M17 R5. Now, considering how much gaming laptops cost, it feels a real shame that the actual speakers, mics and webcams feel like an absolute afterthought, and even your phone is probably going to sound and look better on the actual webcam. Now, it will be okay for Teams or Skype meetings, but it's certainly not great, and you probably are better off using your phone. And just one last thing to mention before we actually move to the internals and performance. Along the top of the screen, that is actually an air intake, and the actual alien head power button. One of the things I really do like about this power button is the fact that if you're on battery, power button lights up yellow. If you're on mains, it's blue, and if it's charging whilst on mains, it flashes between yellow and blue, so you always know what's going on with the laptop. Saved me a couple of times where I've accidentally pulled the power cable out or not turned it on the wall, and I've noticed straight away by the colour of the power button. Alright, so let's look inside this laptop. Now the good news is this ships with a Gen 4 SSD. We've got two Gen 4 M.2 drives, so you can easily add another one later. We've also got two DDR5 RAM slots, and I've got two 8GB installed, but I can easily take those out and upgrade up to 64GB at a later date. Also, the Wi-Fi card is socketed, so you could change that in the future. But everything else, as usual on these laptops, is soldered in. And also the motherboard is inverted, so if you want to repaste it, unfortunately you're going to have to take the whole motherboard out to do so. Now let's take a quick look at performance. And I've chosen the Ryzen 9 6900HX CPU in this laptop. It's quite an expensive upgrade in the UK over the standard 6800H. Benchmarks wise, these Ryzen CPUs do score pretty well. They're better than last year's Intel 11th gen, but they're not quite as good as these new 12th generation older legacy CPUs from Intel. But despite not being as fast as 12th generation Intel CPUs, it is much more efficient. This leads to better thermals and CPU temperatures on these machines. Now that's the good part of these Ryzen CPUs, but now I want to talk about my gripe, and that is this 6900HX CPU. Now this is the upgraded, allegedly unlocked model. It is expensive, but Dell have pretty much locked it down. Now in BIOS, we only have the choice of a PBO1 and a PBO2 option, and I found I get slightly better results in the PBO2, but there's no overclocking from in BIOS. There's also no CPU overclocking within Alienware Command Center. Now that's a real shame because in the unlocked Intel CPUs, those were able to overclock in Alienware Command Center. I've also tried tweaking it in Ryzen controller, but unfortunately I was unable to change any of the frequencies or TDP or anything on the CPU. But that could just be because these 6000 series are quite new to the market. But overall, this makes this CPU completely wasted in this chassis. But all in all, for the CPU, I would just recommend get that 6800H. Don't waste your money on the 6900HX. It's just not worth it. Now, as we move to the actual GPU side, we've got the 150 watt 3070 Ti in this model. And that has been a real solid performer. And in my opinion, it is probably the go-to card of this year. The 3060 has not changed over the last few years, and the 30 Ti is very expensive for the slight performance increase you get over the 3070 Ti. So gaming on this laptop is incredibly smooth. It is only a 1080p panel, and this 3070 Ti cuts through any single game at high settings I put through it. And it also does so with incredible thermals. If you look at the actual CPU and the GPU temperatures, if I've got it set to performance mode, you're looking at that 60 odd degrees on both, which is really impressive, especially if you're used to the 12th generation Intel CPUs. Those regularly hit 100C because it's a real furnace to keep those maximum clocks. If I switch it to just the standard balanced mode, I did get about an extra 10 degrees C on that CPU, which is still only in the early 70s and still much, much better than Intel. When it comes to the actual fan noise, The maximum fan in performance mode is 52 decibels, and on balance mode I was hitting about 48 decibels, so it's more than comfortable to game on, and it was a really pleasant experience gaming for long periods of time on this laptop, because the temperatures were great and external temperatures were also great. But unfortunately, when we move to performance on battery, things aren't quite so rosy. Ryzen laptops generally get a lot better battery than Intel, but they do that by really throttling back on that CPU, and that's exactly the case on this laptop. When switching it to battery mode and running some of my usual tests, I found the actual Geekbench 5 is about 50% less on the single core and about 20% left on the multi-core scores, leading to quite a sluggish CPU performance on this CPU. Not only that, the GPU, as expected, being an Nvidia card, does throttle down to about 50 watts on maximum wattage if you're gaming, leading to a very average times by score on this machine. But also, with these Ryzen CPUs, they actually throttle the actual PCI Gen 4 slot back as well. And when testing the SSD on battery, the scores were slashed by about 40% on the maximum throughput of this drive, making it feel more like a Gen 3 drive than a Gen 4. But despite the performance being throttled back on battery, the good news is the battery life. Now, when I got this machine out of the box and I streamed some YouTube video over Wi-Fi with all the lights on, set to 165 Hz on the screen, I was only getting about 6 hours. I was quite disappointed. But by tweaking the system, turning off the RGB, turning the screen to 60 Hz, putting it into sort of battery mode, I actually managed to get just over 11 hours of battery life, which is quite incredible. So yes, the performance is throttled back a bit on battery, but you're going to get insane battery life if you tweak this system. And in all honesty, if you're using this on battery, I think most people would prefer a bit of a sacrifice to performance to get that extra life while you're on the go. Now that leads me through to the conclusion. If you're looking for a 1080p gaming laptop with a 17-inch screen, great thermals, great temperatures, and just great performance, this is a fantastic machine. It feels solid, a good selection of ports, great performance out of the 3070 Ti and the Ryzen processor. But there is one massive elephant in the room, and that is the price. Dell have charged this almost the same price as the X17R2, at least in the UK. Maybe in your region, the pricing may be better. And I hope this is something that Dell does address soon. It could just be that this is an early adopter's tax, or it could just be because it's a new product, they're trying their luck with the pricing. But I would say this needs to be at least 20% lower in value to make this a cost-efficient laptop. At this price, I'd recommend anyone buy the X17R2 if you're looking for an Alienware. Not only do we get a cheaper chassis with this M17R5 than the X17R2, there's a lot of sacrifices that have been made. We get the old-fashioned power supply, which is quite a chunky lump compared to the new X17 power supply. We get no Thunderbolt because we're on Ryzen. And the USB-C is not even wired directly to the RTX card, which is a real shame as well. I mean, you've got to use that HDMI port if you wish to get a direct connection to your RTX from this laptop. So overall, I feel this is a good laptop if it's the right price. At the price that it is out at the moment, I would not even consider it. I would certainly say pick yourself up the Alienware X series or look for an alternative like the G76 that we've got coming up soon, or maybe even a Razer Blade, because if you're paying such a premium for a laptop like this, I would want much, much better performance. And my last gripe with this laptop before I sign off is the screen. This 1080p panel is good, the 360Hz 1080p panel is good, but I'm really, really annoyed that Dell hasn't given us any more options. It's like they're deliberately holding back this Ryzen M17R5. There's no 4K option, which we get on the X17, and the option that everybody is screaming for, the QHD panel, is nowhere to be seen over at Dell. I think Dell really needs to come and take a look at their product range and start adding in the actual options that people want. Well, there's my review of the M17R5. As always, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Please put it in the comment section down below. I will read and get back to you. And as always, thanks for watching.